Fantastic realism towards seductive vampires, mighty werewolves, beautiful elves, and mighty legendary warriors. Fantasy worlds create beautiful, sometimes scary stories. But there is more to it, because as you finally find comfort in creation of realistic portraits, you will surely ponder a new direction, a new challenge, and search for things that can enhance your art. And this is it. This is how you do it. Adventures into the worlds of fantasy are one such thing. Fantasy built on top of realism creates extremely valuable art. And please, don't worry, as with portraits, the road towards fantasy is paved with reference images. But here, you move beyond just headshots and even beyond full-body photos into speaking with color, stylization, pose arrangement, and painting composition. Despite what schools try to teach us, it is always more responsible to prepare a library of all the reference photos that you will need. For example, I need butterflies to see if perhaps my elf painting could use a crown similar to an 1869 work by Sophie Anderson, which she wonderfully entitled with a poem. Take the fair face of woman gently suspending, with butterflies, flowers, and jewels ascending. Thus your fairy is made of most beautiful things. And that is exactly what you need to upgrade your realistic portrait to a fairy version. Art is a beautiful adventure, and it has a song that will interweave and multiplex with your song. If fantasy worlds call to you, then this is your next step. And you will learn fast. I barely begun, and I already outgrew my first 3 works of art. My portfolio is down to just 6 pieces, as if to make room for more fantastic realism. My hoistoo cat does not belong in my art portfolio anymore, as it is just a magical one. Stylization of realistic portraits is best kept down to minimum. A good is to look at other people's art in search of ideas that they borrowed and then developed. As you cross beyond realism and begin to speak with color and added flourish of stylization, you will discover the language of the pose. Here you can express defiance, attack, power, by simply bending the shape of the body. You still use photos for reference. You want things to feel right. But now you take a long time to pose your models and to take just the perfect photo that goes well with the fade and the source of perfect color. May your art begin with hyperrealism, for there are great universes waiting for you to open the door.